If you enjoy this podcast, then be sure to check out Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily, where you can get your daily dose of farm wisdom. Tune in every day to learn the latest tips, tricks, and stories from the world of farming. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or just getting started, our podcast has something for everyone. Join us as we explore topics like farm business, crop planning, soil management, and tools and technology. Start your day off right with Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily, available on all major podcast platforms. Don't miss out. Subscribe today. Is the role consumers play in that to support producers that do these types of things, to pay the higher price for the calorie?
I think for those who can afford it, certainly. I think consumers play a major role. I think they play a major role not just in buying the good stuff, but in asking for it, because some stores they're not sourcing in a way that would promote a more sustainable, so to speak, agricultural system. And so I think, asking for more locally sourced, regeneratively grown, or the other term that's used is like soil health management or conservation management. But asking for these things, get to know your farmer or rancher. Go to your local farmers market and get to know them, learn about what they're doing, support them where you can. But I think there's also a play around policy. Like the Farm Bill in and of itself has such an influence on the economic state of the US, the way that we manage our land and treat the environment. That bill alone has a huge impact on our lives, and many of us aren't aware of it even. So even just contacting your local policymaker and asking them to support farmers and ranchers in implementing these practices through the Farm Bill. Public funding is likely not sufficient to drive the transition of agricultural management, but paired with private investment, I think we can actually support growers enough to de-risk the transition. Because that's the other thing. We don't know for sure that these are more expensive in the long term, but we know that there's an expense and there's a risk with transitioning management practices. And so as much as we can support growers through that, the better. And so, I think it's a combination of policies and markets.
I mean, if you came out of UC Davis, you're up in ag country in California. What experience do you have, if any, with growers who might be saying, Jessica, I hear you, but like, how does that pencil out? Are they receptive? And then it's concerns over, if I did that, then it would change costs. I get there's certain systems like your almond system, for example, right? That's nuanced. You have to work around that. But for a tomato grower who's growing a portion of the year and maybe the field sits fallow for the rest of the year or whatever, maybe it's another crop. But what do you know from academia and then growers who've been educated about that real economic potential challenge?
Yeah, I know the one thing I know for certain is that if you give a grower a challenge, they will find a solution for it, especially if you support them in that process. They're some of the most clever and intelligent thinkers I've come across because they think in systems. They understand how natural processes work. And I think that there's still very little we know about the economic balance. There's claims that are made that it's more expensive, that it's not affordable, that it doesn't pencil out. Again, some of that might just be associated with the fact that there's a cost to transition and there's a risk associated with transition. For instance, growers have the equipment that they have and their equipment is expensive. And so if now all of a sudden they want to use no-till, they need a no-till drill. They maybe need a roller crimper to terminate their cover crop. And those things cost a lot of money. And I think we know generally speaking, but the way we usually look at economics and agricultural systems, or at least we do in California, is something called cost return studies. And so those are actually used quite heavily by growers to determine what crops they're going to grow because they can see what the cost of production is and what the potential revenue or return will be. And those basically go through and they document every cost associated with managing or growing or cultivating a crop. And they're very comprehensive. But the thing is that they're all based off of conventional management up until now. I know of one in California that looks at cover cropping in agronomic crops. I think it's in small grains specifically. And we don't really know much in terms of actual dollars and cents. We have general ideas, And I know of growers who figured out ways to make it work financially and even do quite well. Typically, those growers are using what are now considered, although historically it would have been the reverse, but now considered non-traditional markets, right? Where they're going direct to consumer, where they're selling at farmers markets and things of that nature, because there's more of the ability to do that markup and to extend the cost onto the consumer. Whereas when you're selling into a large packer processor or a retailer is buying your product or a food service provider or something, again, that's where the margins have to be quite thin. And so it's not as easy to make it work.
Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Let's face it, seeding in the nursery is tedious and time-consuming. Turn the drudgery into efficiency with the time and labor-saving Quick Click Seeder by Modern Grower. The Quick Click can seed a full nursery tray in seconds. It's fully compatible with all trays on the market, such as paper pot, airstrip, cell trays, prop tech, and more. The Quick Click can also be used for microgreens. Cut your time spent seeding by 75% with a Quick Click Seeder available at shop.moderngrower.co.